Hello and welcome back to the series Through the Eyes of an Equestrian. Joining me today is Pip Cross. Pip is going to be telling us about her journey to 5-star and that it is in fact possible for a girl who hasn't come from a horsey family.
Hi, I'm Pip Cross. I'm an eventer from Norfolk. I've set up my yard about 7 years ago, and having worked in several eventing yards. And yeah, we've just completed our first 5-star.
Going back to the beginning then, where did your obvious passion for horses and journey in eventing begin?
I was about 10 years old when I had some friends who had some ponies in the village, and they sort of introduced me to ponies. I just used to go after school to help them look after them, and I literally would go at the weekends just to watch them ride them at competitions, and I'd just be like, oh, I really want to do a competition. And and then we watched Burley one afternoon on the telly, and I just said to them, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and do that. I then started to have riding lessons in the local riding school, and I just begged every day of my life to have a pony of my own to look after. And yeah, it basically, now we've got a yard full.
Reflecting back then, 15, 20 years ago, all you wanted to do was go to a competition and ride your friends' ponies, and now you're at 5-star. What challenges have you faced along the way, and what hurdles have you overcome to have got to this point in your career where you are going out and competing against the world's best? Something you only could have dreamed of when you were a child, and now it is your reality.
Yeah, I've always had a bit of a mad sense of belief, I guess, that I can do it, like it will happen. It's easy to say that now. There have obviously been doubts and times where you think, oh God, it's never gonna happen. But I just worked really hard, and it was my absolute, like, it was weird. My mum will say the first time I sat on a horse, it was like I was meant to be there. I've had great opportunities at being given loan ponies that haven't cost money to buy. I mean, I literally, as a teenager, would ride anything I could. If anyone wanted something ridden, or wanted someone to go on loan for 2 years for like a pony club home, like I'd be like, yeah, I'll have it. And they weren't the most talented things in the world, and they were usually things that had quirks, but I think that in turn helped me learn to ride properly, and also to make a horse good, rather than expecting it to be good just because you bought something that's got good breeding or that's got a proven record. You know, I had to actually make all of my horses. So yeah, it is hard, and it's been a long journey, but I would say that when you find something that you feel you can't live without, you have to make it work.
You have worked on multiple event yards and gained such a depth of experience and knowledge. Who do you think is the standout, most inspirational person who has given you that knowledge and that understanding of horses to go on and open your own yard and to be successful within eventing?
Well, I worked for 3.5 years for Emily Lahore. So she was a huge, like, hero in Norfolk, because there aren't that many people based in Norfolk. I learned a lot working for her, and it was great because I saw so many different types of horses and different scenarios and ways to deal with things, and it set me up well to, you know, be able to take on my own yard. Outside of that, my biggest hero was Pippa Funnel, and you know, I went and worked for her for a little bit time in the winter. That was sort of an amazing thing to watch, and I've always read her books, and she has some owners from Norfolk, so I was always really interested in her yard and how she produced her horses, and all of that, and so that massively inspired me. And I think there's been so many people over the years, though. I mean, I have links with Roz Cantor through Chris Bartle and Judy Bradwell, and Roz is a massive inspiration, especially as actually there was criticism of my best horse, that I was too small on him, And I just used to look at Roz and think, well, actually, you know, no, I'm not too small. If she can sit out on All Star B and ride him the way she does, like, why, you know, why can't I? So there's been a lot of inspiration, but you know, those are the people that stick out as, you know, really, really inspirational. And Roz was recent, you know, she's inspired me to get stronger, to go to PT sessions, to really push myself that bit further, to be, because you know I am small on him, and he is quite a big powerful horse. So it, you know, she's inspired me to think, actually, you know, she's doing these PT sessions and working, doing these exercises and everything else, so you know, maybe that's what I need to do to just step myself up another level. So yeah, but there's been a lot of people over the years.
Scoop, your best horse, who you just did your 5-star debut in Po with, isn't your traditional eventer, is he? Because he's actually an ex-pointer. So, in that journey from 90 to 5-star with him, you must have come over some significant challenges. At what point did you sit down and think, you know what, he's going to make it, he is going to be my 5-star horse, and I'm just going to persevere with this?
There was never a doubt in my mind that he had every ability. It sounds easy to say that now that he has. There was times where like he was really quite frustrating. He was very hot in the dressage and the show jumping, so almost everything he gave was like a bonus. And as we stepped up through the levels together seamlessly, almost, you know, there was no ever real like blip in his record where he went not very well or had a confidence crisis. That never happened with him. So it was easy almost in a way to skip up the levels. He was just raw as raw when I got him, but he lived to jump. Like, he jumped me out of my school once. Like, he just, if you pointed him at something, his instinct is to jump it. So from that point of view, it was about harnessing all of that enthusiasm, fine-tuned him with the help of Chris Bartle and Judy Bradwell. That's how we fine-tuned him. But the aim has always been never to kill his madness, because that's what makes him great, but to harness it and work with it. And that's very much how I produce all my horses, is to work with them. They're not, I don't want to punish them into things. It's about, and you can't work with thoroughbreds if that's your attitude, or you know, or you want to be rough. You have to give them the time, you have to be sensitive, because they are reactive. But interestingly, I always disagree when people say he was a racehorse. I always say no, he's an event horse that raced. He's not a racehorse that events. He's an event horse that raced. Like, he was in the wrong career. He jumped too well to point. And he actually would suit, if we still had roads and tracks and all that stuff, that would suit him down to a T. Like, he'd be magic over all that, because he literally can run forever. You can work him as hard as you like for as many days as you like. He comes back twice as tough and twice as up for it. So yeah, he is a bit of a freak, but yeah, very lucky to have had him and had the opportunity with him.
Going back a month then, and you and him were at Po at your first 5-star. How did that feel, having been that little girl at Pony Club with a dream, and then suddenly you are there on that racing yard in the south of France, ready to take on those big fences?
It was kind of like unbelievable in a way. I've struggled a lot with self-belief, and so I've worked a lot on that, and I've worked a lot on feeling good enough to be there. But I've got to myself to a mind space now when I'm on him at an event where I do feel like we belong, and I feel like we are good enough, and I feel like, and that is, do you know, one of the biggest things that has improved our journey is confidence in me and in myself. He has plenty of confidence. He doesn't care how he goes around things, but it's about my confidence, about, you know, not making a fool of ourselves, and, you know, not looking like we're a first timer, or, you know, like we don't really belong there. If I'm honest, I go into a mind space, and at that moment I don't think about anything except what fence is coming up next. And it isn't, I always say, it's not till you've finished that you really appreciate or enjoy it. When you've finished, it's like, thank God, and I can't believe I did that. But at the time, it's literally just pure focus for 12 minutes.
I know you've only just finished one 5-star, but thinking ahead now to 2022, springtime, is a certain badminton going to be on the cards for you two?
I'd love to go to badminton, and it's the preference over Burghley for the first one here. Burghley's terrain is quite, you know, tricky, and it's well known for being difficult. So badminton would be ideal, but the criteria is quite steep, so we're just working out whether we've got a shot in there or not. If not, I guess I've got no option but to go for the one in September. But I mean, he's magic cross country. Like, he wouldn't want to sit on anything else. So yeah, we've got to use him while he's fit and well enough, and he's not too old. And you just don't know when your next one's going to come along. I don't have strings of 10 really, really nice young horses coming up to his level, so we've got a long way to go. I've got a couple of thoroughbreds of my own that I do sell, turn around, do a little bit of eventing with, and sell, and then I'm looking at building a pot of money up to then put into a sportier version of a horse for myself. But it's all about building, and Tim and Janelle are really amazing at this, because if you look back at them when they started this, they made horses good and sold them, and they sold and sold and sold everything until they had the name and the money to then just have a lot at the top level, which they've got now. And I think that's the main thing. I've sold a couple of thoroughbreds, and I'll look to sell the other ones I've got this year, and then hopefully put the money into another nice one of my own, because it's also important to keep yourself out on the circuit enough. And owners are great and everything, but they do come and go a little bit, and I always think it's important to have one of your own running at the same time.
What advice would you give to younger riders then, who might be in the same position that you were 15 years ago, with limited resources? They don't own their own horse, but they are adamant that they're going to make a career in eventing. What would you say to them, and what pathway would you advise them to go down in order to make their career in eventing and to get to 5-star eventually?
Well, I would say, obviously, Mike, it goes without saying that my parents have been really supportive. Like, I don't think anyone can achieve anything without supportive parents, in sport particularly, or ever anything really, but particularly sport, because while you're coming up as a teenager or a child, they need to be able to take you to lessons and to help you in that way. That isn't to mean that you need the best pony in the world or to go to the best person for lessons all the time. Like I said, I started in a riding school, and it was great basis for my riding. It did. I learned a lot. I got better a lot, and I learned to fall off, and I learned to do all those really important things that you do actually need to learn. And then I had the opportunity of having loan ponies, and my parents were like, we can't afford a horse. Like, they were really open with me, but I just sort of felt that this was something I wanted to do. And by the time I got to 18, and I was doing my A-levels, my mum said that I had to finish them before I went to a yard, but I was adamant that I was going to a yard. And you're kind of, by that point, you couldn't really say no. And then basically it's about placing yourself in a yard where you learn, and lots of these yards do offer young girls and boys good enough deals that even without loads of family support, you can actually make the start to your career. If they're paying a wage and you've got somewhere to live, you're kind of halfway there. And then if you're working with amazing horses, you just don't know. I always think to myself, you never know what opportunities you're going to get. If you're a good worker, you ride well, you work hard, you might get given the opportunity to sit on a couple of the sort of lower level horses, start producing some babies. All of that is great experience. And then if you do get the opportunity where you're able to open up your own place or rent your own place or whatever, then you've kind of got the skill set to do that. But I do think people and young people need to go away and work in yards. And I would say that is like the most important thing. The life experience you get, the level of care that you see the horses get, that all needs to be learned before you want to go out and do your own thing and go eventing. And then after that, it's about basically being out, being seen to do a good job, making sure the horses all look well. And because I was a head girl for so long, I'm massively involved in my yards and how the horses are turned out. I do a lot of clipping myself. I do a lot of the pulling myself, because
to me, it's so important that those standards are maintained. And I've got a really great girl who is my head girl, who is picking up all of those things off me now, and is you know, I'm able to do less, making sure the yard is done properly. But those are all really great adverts for you as a person. Is what your horses look like. Do they look well? Are their coats shiny? Are they turned out nicely, clean tack? You know, all of that is really important at picking up owners. As shallow as it sounds, you know, you are selling yourself and a service. So you have to, those are the most important things, I think, when you're trying to set up on your own. Make sure you're experienced enough, make sure you're trustworthy. You know, I'm always too honest with my owners. And they know everything, even what the horses are doing that's naughty. But I just think honesty is always the best policy, and that you know, then, you know, everyone's happy and everyone's, you know, pleased with what you're doing, hopefully.